Garrett, welcome back to the World XP podcast, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Good. Good to see you. Good to be back. I'm like a regular here now.
I know. I think it was the third time, something like that. Fourth time. Last time you were holding up like spears and things that you could use to kill things. So maybe we should. I don't know. That was fun though. I'm not gonna lie. I learned a lot that time because I think we went on. I wanted to talk to you about physics, and you were like, "No, we're talking only about fishing." And I was like, "Sounds good. We could do that, man." That
Well,
man.
the first one was like all physics, and then when the second one, yeah, I was like, we got to talk about something else here. It's funny. I told the media manager that I work with, I was like, hey, by the way, like, I really want to go on this thing, and but I've already been on it twice. It's no big deal. It's gonna be simple. And she was like, well, wait. When did you go do this? Because she's only been with us since the show. I'm like, no, this is before the show. She's like, oh, you're on podcast before the show. I was like, oh, it's like Friends Play. Yeah, it's cool. So she
Oh,
checked it out. She looked at it first, and she's like, all right, you're good, you're
I'm not gonna tank the PR. Oh, okay.
good.
Well, okay, so obviously we've been so for those listening, Garrett obviously was on twice. If you want to know him prior to the show, go check those out. He's still the same person. He just decided to grow his hair out. Um, so actually let's just do this. So we've got the questions from the last guest, like we were talking about before. I've got two
Yeah,
because one is from a physicist. So we can let's do that
my
one
kind of guy.
second. Yeah, I think you'd like him. Let's do the other one first, and then we'll do the physics one after. So the first one is
All
who is the most influential person in your life, and how did they influence you?
right. Interesting. Okay, so probably influential would be. I mean, I would go with my parents. I mean, they've that's got to be it. It's like my parents and then Chuck. So you could cheat a little bit. Um, that's probably a simple answer, right? Like your parents influence you, but my parents are they're very impressive people, and I'm very impressed by their marriage. I think it's very topical of me to say that now, I guess, right? Is that their marriage is impressive to me and what they've been able to come through. They've had lots of difficulties throughout, and but they've handled it really well and handled it really well in front of us as kids growing up, and what they've been able to come through. And they're just it's like an older marriage, like they they got married early and they got married quickly, not as quickly as I did, but like after a couple months, met and married in like 3 months, I think, or something like that, which is really fast. Back then, especially, or just well, especially now, actually, really. But so maybe they went into it not that well informed, which I guess I relate to now, and they are very, yeah, they're very happy. They're very happy after shoot, I think like 35 years of marriage or something like that. This February, and they have come through so many difficulties of just not trying to figure out what's going on with their lives, and they have different interests and different personality traits and things they've had to work through. And they're it wasn't like now where you run into a lot of problems and you're like, I'm gone. They fought through it, and I think that's a lot to look up to, and so I admire that in their marriage.
Yeah, 100%. I think as you've probably learned, um, like the communications through the hard parts of marriage is like, especially like you said now, there's a lot of like cut like one bad thing and it's like, okay, I'm
Yeah,
skedaddling. But like the more things you get through, obviously you don't want to actively try to get through to do bad things, of course. But like the more things you get through, like the stronger it comes out the other side. At least that's what
yeah.
I've found.
No,
You
there's a
become
bright side.
closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Okay, so the physics one, I'm super interested in your answer to this one. It
All right.
says because physics is deterministic and every particle of our body is governed by those same deterministic physical laws, it means that fate must exist. Given that, should this fact change how we think about things such as our interpersonal relationships, governments, laws, taxes, and regulations?
Um, well, I don't agree with this premise, unfortunately. So it's not
Sure.
so the physics and determinism died when we came up with the uncertainty principle. Um, and I think I talked about that in my initial um, interview. And even if determinism was a thing, I mean, so there's a whole different piece side of this, which I think is a little bit different and maybe a little bit more like
Let me
grounded.
let me
Go ahead.
add one thing. So
Sure,
he
sure.
so he wrote a book about free will and he's saying that
See, yeah, that's where I was going to go with free. So that's where I was going next.
yeah,
We can
so
talk about
like
free
he
will, which is a
argues
little bit
about
different.
free will in theory versus free will in practice. So I don't
Hmm.
think that he believes that as a whole because he says free will in practice must exist because I think of to the point that you mentioned. So I wouldn't say that that's his whole premise, but I
Hmm.
think that's how he asked the question.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm interested to see the book you wrote on free will. So I read a lot about free will. I'm very interested in it. And I've listened to a few different perspectives, but I think I fall mostly in line with teachings of, or at least understanding of Sam Harris, and his wife. I think his wife Annika is very well versed in this too. Reading a book on it now. But this is such a sticky topic. I think people, I don't think a lot of people like to talk about it. It's just tricky, and also it's like if you come to the conclusion that there is no such thing as free will, um, it it can get really messy mentally.
Yeah.
What's the point if there's no such thing as kind of the idea? And you could say, well, if understanding and learning about free will then forces me to be like a blob the rest of my life and just not do anything and just be a drain on society, um, isn't that a choice too? But the answer is that some people believe is that is no, it's not. You have these thoughts and you react to different experiences, and this experience of learning about free will, you're always programmed to think this way and have these thoughts. And when I mean, this is like that's more philosophical. I think, and it's way stickier there, and a lot of people will disagree if you just stay very high level and philosophical about that. But if you get really into the weeds on what's happening with free will, uh, you're trying to measure the time a thought arises versus when you perceive having thought that thought. It really looks like there's a strong science-based argument for um, against free will. And so okay, if that's true, so this is I think where maybe your friend here is getting at. If that's true, if we just assume that for a second, I'll just so we can address the question that free will doesn't exist, um, which I think is maybe the reference to determinism. Then the question, so from that framing, the question comes back to how should that affect policies and things like that? Is that what it is?
It said so his premise based on my understanding is that free will exists, but fate also must exist, and given that fate exists, not necessarily that they're mutually exclusive, but given that fate must exist, how should does it change how we think about the relationships and regulations and all the other stuff that he mentioned?
Yeah. So this, I'll just make it easy because I could spend a lot of time. I've got lots of questions. I'd love to just talk to the guy. I think this is very interesting. But to make it easy, I think that if you're saying, okay, fate exists, as in to say, like, where I'm going to end up in the future is already predetermined, that's fine. But in the meantime, I can eliminate some suffering, and maybe and try to improve other people's enjoyment of life as well. So I still think that there's a place, even if that were to be true, if there's some movement in the middle, some amount of like variation in the middle that this idea of fate exists allows, then we can still, it's about the journey. And so then at that point, I think eliminating suffering for yourself and others is still of value. And I think that's where perhaps policies and things come into place, is to improve the quality of life and quality of experience of your peers. So,
Yeah, that's a great answer. I'm gonna ask you. The book is not out yet, but I'm gonna ask him if I could send it to you. He sent me a copy, so
yeah, that'd
maybe
be cool.
I'll ask him. Yeah, it was a super interesting conversation. I'd love to at some point maybe. Well, we could talk about it offline, but um, to host like you and him and some other people, and that would be I think super cool. But
Yeah,
anyways, speak
I would enjoy the conversation. Yeah, it'd be good.
speaking of free will, you made the choice to to apply for Love Is Blind.
That's a good
Um,
little spin up.
how um Why? Why did you choose to do that? Because I think last time,
Uh,
I think we spoke about this on the last episode a little bit, where you were like, "I'm so swamped, I don't have time to for
yeah.
relationships and any of these things." And I, kind of knowing you, was like, "Okay, that's tracking at least like you had the self-awareness, which I admired greatly because I know there are some people that um maybe not personally, but I've heard stories of people trying to
Yeah.
do all these things and then also do a relationship and the relationship doesn't work and all the things. And so I admired the self-awareness at that point. And then I turn around and see so it's like, "Oh, I'm going on the show." And I was like, "Huh, look at that."
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple things there. I've explained before how I ended up on the show, and I may do a whole. I've been wanting to start like a YouTube this year, and I may do a whole video on how that all transpired. But 'cause it was a long journey. Um, but and I said no several times and wasn't planning on going and didn't want to do it for several reasons. One of which I'm swamped. Like, is this worth like the mental and emotional and professional weight that it's going to take to like move things around on my schedule to make this work? Because it's 3 weeks off the grid without a phone. Okay, so that's your first thing. That's a big chunk. You take that and offer that up to anybody off the grid, you can be like, well, okay, what am I getting out of this? And
Hmm.
looking at it, I don't, at face value, being asked to go on a show like this, okay, one thing for certain is going to happen. You're going to be on reality TV. Okay. That's 100% true. It's a much smaller percentage, less than 1% chance that you are going to end up getting married. Okay. At least from my perspective. Now, from a numbers perspective, and you count the number of people in our show, what is it, like 30 people on average, maybe one couple gets married. Okay. The percentage is a lot higher. But for me and myself, I felt like there was close to 0% chance that there was going to be a woman on the other side of that wall that I was into. Um, and so I thought it was a very small chance that I would come out of this with the ultimate prize, a life partner, right? So is this worth it to me? No, my time is very precious to me. And so no, I did not think it was worth it. So I said no immediately. And then spoke to some friends. This was when they first approached me. And I spoke to some friends later that night, or well, that weekend, because I think it was the middle of the week. So went out for drinks with some friends, told them about this, and now we're like, holy shit. I just said it very casual. I was like, yeah, the show kind of, you know, and their wives in particular were like, oh, they're like, dude, like my wife loves that show, or my girlfriend loves that show. And so they all swarmed me and were talking about it and convinced me to reach back out and say, hey, I'll apply. And
How
so,
did they
because you
find
have to fill
you?
out paperwork. LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, they all reached out on all three platforms and messaged me privately. And, a lot of stuff goes to spam or whatever, so you just don't see it. But they then commented on a photo of mine and said, "Hey Garrett, check your DMs. We'd like to we have an opportunity for you." And now I've seen that before too. Again, so I'm like, "What the hell is this?" But I went and looked. The guy, I checked his profile first and like legit. So I went to Instagram, and yeah, there it was. So I followed up with a message and asked him like prove what he's saying is true because I didn't buy into it, I didn't believe it, and he sent me like some links to some stuff and had the Love Is Blind Instagram account message me directly, and that was a very legit account. So I was like, okay, all right, this is legit. So I then agreed to apply. It did a 3 hour interview. And like a couple of days later, they were like, "We want you to be on the show. Here's a contract. Sign the contract." And I was like, man, I read through the contract and, with a heavy heart, I'm like, because I was like, I don't really want to do this. And that was the whole thing. It was like, at least the interview would be a good experience. And so I agreed to do that. And then I looked at the contract and I went back and I said, look, I don't want to do this. I'm sorry. Like, I know that my person isn't there. That's the only reason I'd go. They're not there. I promise you. I'm not interested. Because I didn't have other motives of like becoming famous and going on reality TV. Like they're gonna kill me. I don't like reality TV, and I don't think it's. I didn't at the time think it had any sort of value to it. But then, so I said no. Um, a good one of my mentors, Chuck Ross and Julie Ross, these two professors from my university. The guy that ended up marrying me, in fact. Um, we talked about it and we're like we should watch the show, and so we watched it and we watched season 4, and that's when I started to become convinced. I was like, this is real. Like these people are in love. Like I don't I don't understand it, but they are. And I was like, this seems to have value here. Like this isn't stupid, just all drama BS. And so I started to think about it more, but I already said no. And then they came back to me in July. So mind you, all that stuff was April to May. And
Hmm.
then in July, they reached back out. I remember July 4th, I remember it was at the beach with my family. And they reached back out and said, we'd like to insist that you join. What can we do to the contract? What can we change to make you feel more comfortable about all of this? And I sat on it for a couple of days while I was like, I'm on vacation. Let me give me some time. And I sat down and talked to my family and, we chatted about it. And I was like, man, I'm just completely fulfilled in life. I'm happy. If I find my person, it won't be on reality TV. I promise you. I'm good. Thank you very much. Um, and so yeah, they went away, and then fast forward to July, like 15th or so, middle of July, July 13th, I think was the actual date. Got another call 2 weeks to go till we fly out, and they were insisting again and said, last call, like the executives really want you. We'd really like you there. Please, like, what can we do? And at that time, coming back to this whole fate thing, felt like fate was knocking at my door. I was like, something's different here. Like it's just insisting. I'm given three opportunities to do the same thing. And I, by
Also
that
by
time,
like
I had a
by like
lot more
such a
time to
big
think about it.
platform as well. It's like
Yeah,
that not like rarely do they come around once, but three times
yeah,
from like Netflix is like
yeah.
that's a lot.
So I was like, who do you have over there that you think that I'm like a good match for? Because that's what they're saying too. Is like we believe we have great matches for you and you in particular, and so but it's part of that feels like a sales pitch.
Yeah.
But when they're coming back for the third time, either they just have nobody in DC that they can talk to. Because almost, mind you, I'm in Fredericksburg. I'm not even in DC, and so it just all felt like, why would they be pushing this hard? And by that point, I was a little bit more secure in my job that I had just started that year, and I had more time to think about it, and maybe a little bit of like regret sitting. So I'm like, well, I said no to this thing, and it would have been cool. And so like all these feelings are swirling, and it's like, I think this is one of those things that I should just go experience. And sure, they may not be there, but maybe I'm underselling the value of the experience besides just finding a wife. And so from that new lens, I said yes. And I was in Virginia Beach at the time. I was living there for the summer. I had my home in Virginia Beach, my home in Fredericksburg, and I decided to shut the doors on Virginia Beach Place, and I rented it out. I had to turn it over in like a week, less than a week, and get out of there that Sunday so I could get home, so I could get my Fredericksburg place ready for me to leave for 3 weeks or longer, right? And get that place set, and also get clothes together and outfits and send in pictures, and I had to do all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it was a whirlwind, but glad I did it.
Yeah, you might say
Yeah,
so. Um, the process of you going there from like your job and your parents, like there was a scene on the show, I think if I remember, like if it was, I think it was your mom who was like, "This is all happening so fast," type deal. But if they were kind of
yeah,
not that they knew what you signed up for, because no one really does until like it happens to you.
yeah,
But at the same time, it's like what sorts of things are you setting up prior, and how are you feel like you're at the plane, you're gonna take off and go to wherever you guys filmed? Like, like what's that preparation like? Obviously, you mentioned you had to get the house ready in Virginia Beach and pack and all that stuff, but like, what are they asking of you? So everyone has those pictures that they put on the like promos and whatever, but like, are
yeah,
they reaching out to you with like, don't wear this shirt, don't wear that shirt, we want you to look
yeah,
in this sort of way, like that
yeah,
whirlwind of that week? You've decided you got to tell your job that you're bouncing for 3 weeks and you don't have your phone. You got to like your parents are like, okay, well, now what? It's like walk through like all of that. And if you've like touched
yeah.
on this on other shows and stuff,
No,
we
I
can we
really
can do the
haven't.
four. Okay, go
Um,
for it then.
I mean, so I was still in Virginia Beach. They called me on a Monday. Okay, so the timeline here is Monday, and then like less than 2 weeks later, I'm flying out on the following Sunday, like 2 Sundays later, or yeah. And so I'm still in Virginia Beach. They call me on Monday, and I'm like, "You guys, how do you not have your people yet?" Apparently, they don't tell people till like the last week that they line a bunch of people up and they get them all to sign a contract and get them ready, and then they don't tell the last minute that they're going to go and who they've selected. And I knew if I said yes, I was going to get selected, they wouldn't be pushing this hard. So, but for me, yeah, I told them, I was like, when can I get you an answer by? And they were like, Wednesday. I'm like, okay, that's the last I can answer. Yes. Okay. Let me get some things figured out first. So I have to talk to work and what do I need to do to make this work? And went to my boss, told him my thought process, and he was like, well, if you're going to be gone for this amount of time, like you need some sort of contingency plan in place, some sort of mitigation plan, like a takeover plan. How's this going to work? And oh well, yeah, I just so happen to have already written that for you, and like this is how I think this is going to go down. So and so is going to do this and this and this, and turned out like it was, my job. It's very hard to do. Yes, I had a plan and outline, but it's still we had lots of rockiness um, uh, leading up to and after my leaving. So it was difficult. That was hard. Work was really hard. But anyway, so we still got that pretty enough to where it sounded good and everybody was okay. Everybody signed off on it, legal, marketing, whatever. And so then I've got that was by Wednesday. I got all that approved at work. I still wasn't convinced I wanted to do it. I just told my family. I told Chuck and Julie. I told some friends, and they started to give feedback. Like, look, I'm really thinking about doing this. And so the feedback started to come in, and articles started to come in about the treatment of the cast and all these other things and the conditions. And I'm like, wait a minute, am I rushing into this? Because I didn't look at this stuff. I just watched the show. I just watched season 4, and then that was it. And so doing research, yeah, these things started to pop up, and I'm like, this sounds bad, like poor treatment for the cat, and like they're talking about like sleepless nights and they don't feed you and all, and I'm like, I care way too much about my health and my routine and my mental health, like this. If this is gonna, break me, like I don't want nothing to do with it. Um, so speaking to the recruiters, I expressed concerns, and this is after Wednesday now. This is like, well, you got to commit. Um, and so I was like, I need to speak to somebody from a previous cast member, that I can trust. And Chelsea from season 4 happened to just be the one that I watched, just started working for them, recruiting. And so they connected me with her, and I spoke with her and asked her pointed questions. And she was like, yeah, it was like this, and it was like this. And, they don't force you to drink. You can, I did. She's like, I chose not to drink. I'm like, okay, all these things. And yeah, it made me feel a lot better about it. And she ultimately convinced me it was legit and safe and all these things. And so that was on, I think that phone call was on Thursday. And then on Friday, I still haven't made up my mind or signed paperwork. And the recruiter was getting a little frustrated with me because she told me Wednesday. And by Friday night, I remember I was still asking questions in text. And she had dinner. She went to dinner with her husband. And maybe she had like a couple glasses of wine or something. But she was like reading that text message, like she was frustrated with me. And and I told her that night that I would sign and to check her inbox, and I'd sign the paperwork. So I did. Yeah. And that's what I've had. So then okay, so this is now it's Saturday morning. I gotta get out of here. So I spent all Saturday fixing the place up and doing little things and getting things straightened out. And I left Sunday morning back to Fredericksburg. I spent the week there. Again, I'm still working and working really hard to get work set up so that I could leave. And that week I have to get clothes in order because they send you a package. You can wear only this, you can't wear this, you get no logo, like this would have been fine. Logos, so no logos, um, clean stuff, no crazy funky patterns and designs, and and certain number of outfits and this and that and this type of outfit and beach outfit just in case and all that stuff. And I remember packing my beach stuff. I was like, I'm never gonna need this, but we'll put it in there anyway. And and so I had to get all that stuff. They had to prove it visually, and yeah, sounds good. I sent them in a couple outfits, and they were like, "All right, we trust you. You don't need to send the rest. It's all good." Because we were really out of time, and my luggage just broke too, so I had to order new luggage just in case I was. Cause they still didn't say I was going for sure. I felt really confident I was going to, but still didn't say for sure. And so they told me about Wednesday before we left that you're selected officially, and here's your plane tickets, and they gave you plane tickets on Friday for Sunday. And yeah, we flew out Sunday. I was sitting right behind the seat directly behind Nick Dorca. Um, and we were chatting on the plane a little bit. And then I bumped into Ray. He was the first person I met checking bags. He didn't really make the show, but yeah, it was really those first introductions were all really interesting too. And that whole freaking from the airport to the final orientation was just a chaotic nightmare too. It was all just I remember calling it the worst experience of my life, not because it was bad necessarily, but because I'm a very structured person who loves like just clean structure, organized, and this and that, and things got to go well. And my life just blew up, and I just gave someone else the reins for 3 weeks, and I hated it. I was miserable.
Well, that's
But
what
Taylor
I was
was
about to
like
ask
the
you that.
peace. Yeah,
Wi- Like you've got your like how you work out and how you eat. I was watching like I would be if I was there, I'd be
yeah,
like flipping out because it's like I need to get my workout in. I need to like make sure that
yeah.
I'm not eating this or doing that. Was that was so like outside like in the house if you're just living life like not the stuff that's making the show
Hmm.
how um accessible are things like gym equipment, like the food that you would want to cook for yourself? Obviously, like people would have seen by now that you and that you cook like and you make fish and all that stuff and you cook a lot. Like, was that accessible at all? Or like how did you get used to if it wasn't there, not having it and having to adjust? I know you said you hated it, but there's some like there were some things that you would have needed to just like let go. Otherwise, you would have just had the most miserable time anyways, and that would have come through, I think, more anyways. So like how was that adjustment for you and like was that stuff available or how did it
Yeah,
work? Or like what's life like in the house?
it's
Like
interesting.
as you're
It's
not in the
not
pods
actually a
and stuff.
house. It's
Okay.
not. So it's like a studio,
Uh-huh.
and they bring you there every morning, and they take you back to your hotel every night.
Okay.
So you don't sleep there. It was a I thought the same thing, but it's not. You know, they kind of they get you and you're in PJs in the morning, and you know they get you like but so it looks like you're living there, but you're not. But they don't. I don't think they make it look like you live in there. It's like people kind of roll in with their PJs. Sometimes they tell you roll in ready to be dressed. Sometimes they tell you to roll in kind of relaxed or whatever you want. Um, but so you get there early in the morning. You know, I don't know, like 7:30, 8, something like that. Um, or I think yeah, around like 7:15, 7:30, something like that. And then you're there till sometimes, midnight or later, if it's really bad. And or bad, I say bad like longer dates. There's certain days, the schedule's crazy. I can tell you how it all works later. But so you go, you get like 7 hours at the hotel or so. And that's to, get ready for bed, to go to sleep, to wake up, to go to the gym, to eat breakfast. So you get very little sleep if you're doing night dates. Now, this is the whole thing. Like, this is where people are like, wow, they don't even let y'all sleep. It's like you can sleep. You could do whatever you want to do. You could walk out of there at 10 p.m. every night or 9 p.m. every night, whatever you'd like. You're allowed to do whatever you want. The problem is the incentives are there for you to stay longer. If you feel like you want to develop a good connection or really want to meet with your person, and it's up to you. But most people would take the opportunity to meet with a person a little bit longer, and so you do. Your time window to sleep gets shrunk. And therefore your time to go to the gym gets shrunk. So yeah, I always got up, we'd get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym regardless, no matter what. And we'd go to the gym for like an hour. And some of the guys just went and just like walked on the treadmill, maybe did a couple bicep curls or whatever. But I tried my best to like focus on lifting when we were there because there's very few weights in the lounge. And and I pace around enough during the day. I got enough cardio and I wasn't worried about that. So I'd try to lift some weights in the morning, whatever it is, and also just camaraderie with the guys because like 4 or 5 guys would go to the room, the gym together. They would have like a watcher there paying attention to us so we don't like talk about the show. You can't really like you can't be like, yo, like how's your day with so and so? Like they want all that on camera. So you're supposed to just talk about whatever else is going on, but you don't know what else is going on outside of this. It's like, what am I supposed to talk about? I don't know what's going on in real world events. What do you mean? Like I don't. Um, Something crazy happened in the news. I remember during that time too, and we had no idea, no idea. Um, but
It's
but
like
it's crazy, dude. But anyway, so we do the gym in the morning, go upstairs, shower really quickly, get in your clothes, get what you need ready, meet downstairs, quick 30-minute breakfast, and then you head out to the place. And at the lounge, you get mic'd up, and then all of a sudden you're there, and the producer would come out and give like a pep talk, for lack of a better word, and talk to us about what the kind of the run of the show is going to be for the day. You're going to have this date, then this date, and then there's going to be prompts every day. There's new prompts like what does the word marriage mean to you? Like truly like a relationship boot camp kind of prompts. Like a pre-Cana, if
yeah.
you're familiar with like the Catholic Church, yeah.
Yep.
And so it's that sort of thing, but you're doing it yourself. And some people, you don't have to follow the prompts, but we did for we tried like let's look at these a little bit. And then other times too, it's like this is way too serious. Let's play some games, and those also were helpful. But anyway, so as far as back to the gym, so during the day you have breaks in the middle of the day, and I always hit the weights there. There was a rack of like just little dumbbells, and I always hit those. There's also yoga mats, so you could do any sort of like stretching and ab workouts that you wanted to. And then there's a boxing boxing bag, punching bag. And I was like, nobody's using this. Nobody's going to use this. Nobody does this. Replace this with a pull bar, please. And so we went online picked out like I went. This is the pull bar we want, like $25, $40 one from Walmart. They went and got it, and they replaced the punch bag and put it there. This is, I mean, like people. I've read the lawsuits. People complaining their asses off, but they will do almost anything to make you comfortable. Um,
Huh.
but including bringing whatever alcohol you want, or bringing whatever food you want. Um, with limits. Now, I couldn't ask for a lobster dinner. If I really pushed, maybe they would, but for the most part, like you give them your food restrictions, and I was very specific, and I always got the best meals. Like my castmates were always like, "How did you get that?" Which I was like, "I just wrote it down in the initial thing." So then Leo, I remember he wrote one day. He was like, "Dude, I feel like I wrote exactly what you wrote, but I keep getting this crap." And he's like, so what I told him was just bring me whatever you get, Garrett, just bring that to me. And so Leo always got whatever I got after that. And yeah, it was legit. I mean, just minimally processed, fruits, veggies, fish, meat, and yeah, otherwise it's buffet stuff. And it worked out, it worked out. If they couldn't find what I need on the buffet, they'd order it separately. And, if everybody was doing that, maybe it'd be more pain in the butt, but I was very specific. So yeah, I thought there was plenty of freedom. Now, for food to cook, there wasn't a whole lot. There were some days they'd bring in like eggs and things like that. And you cook your own stuff, but otherwise it was like beef jerky and energy bars. And we'd tell them refill the beef jerky, and you could fill out notes and stuff at the end of the day too, like, hey, we're running out of coconut water or whatever it is, like and sometimes there's latency there, but for the most part, they did take care of you. And I mean, maybe that wasn't the case on previous seasons, but we got taken care of pretty well. And people are drinking too and staying up late and you're exhausted so you want to eat junk food and like high processed highly palatable foods and it was hard to like stay locked in but I feel like I did a great job of that and very proud of how I and a few other cast members handled that whole nutritional navigation.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially like you said with the drinking. But I don't know. I was like Garrett will be fine. He'll make
All the
sure
good
that he
shape.
gets
The
he'll get what he
sleeplessness
needs.
was like I'm like dude I can't I'm like I cannot sleeping like I'm what am I put alcohol on top of that freaking killing myself.
Yeah. So did you, well, so at least the way it looked on the show is that you kind of had you and Taylor had kind of figured it out fairly early, whereas some of the others were like s still seeing multiple people and trying to figure it
Yeah.
out and whatever, and that's all good, however they want to do things. But did you kind of use that to your advantage from the standpoint of earlier? You're like, you could go home at 9 if you want, or you
Yeah,
could
it's
like,
that it is. Yeah, we were pretty. Yeah, Taylor, luckily, like she, like I, needs sleep and needs to go home and wasn't willing to like sacrifice sleep for the night date. And so we'd talk about that, and we'd say, "Hey, look, I like you. I'd love to stay and talk more. I need sleep." And we were like, "Yes, that sounds great. Like, I'll see you in the morning." And yeah, we were fine with that. But so since we agreed to that, that was where the whole note writing notes to each other came in. It's like, I need to know more, but I can't afford to stay for night dating, and these dates are also way too short. Um, so we agreed to write notes. So we went back and we'd to our hotel room and we'd write long notes and we'd be like, what do you want to know? Okay, tell me about your diet or food. And so you'd go back and write a long thing about diet and food. And we'd share that in the morning. We'd come in and give that to our producer and, they'd share that with them. They didn't like it because it's not a visual medium. It's a written medium.
nah,
So
who cares? You guys got married. Who cares?
yeah, well, they didn't know at the time, but they made us they made us read the notes out loud in the beginning of the date in
Yeah.
case they wanted to use it, and I don't they never did. But yeah, it was what we tried to do.
Yeah, well, that's smart as well because then you've got stuff where it's like that this can be communicated in a written form. It doesn't have to be like expanded upon in any way.
Yeah,
And so you're like, okay, we'll pick these things and then we'll spend the time talking. Well, you mentioned something. Did they set time limits on dates or the amount of time that you could talk to people? So like,
yeah,
okay, so walk me through like
the process.
I don't want to say like a normal day at the studio because it sounds like they were all different. But like
No,
it,
it develops. It's very simple though.
okay,
You've
go
got
ahead.
the first day is you date all 15 women and you date them for 15 minutes apiece. I think it might have been 10 or 15 minutes apiece. Um, and then yeah, I think it's 10 minutes. So yeah, pretty sure first day is 10 minutes, all 15 women. Okay. So then do the math. And there's time in between.
Hmm.
Um, the next day it's down to 8 women or 8 men, whatever, side of the aisle you're on. And or up to, let's say, 8 women. I'll explain what that means in a second. So up to 8 women. So they cut it in half essentially. And those dates are now 30 minutes. And then the following day, 6 women, 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and then the following day, then just one. So then 5 women for an hour, or hour and a half piece, or whatever. So it just as the number shrinks, which they force that number to shrink, by this algorithm about rent, and I'll explain the algorithm in a second. And then as the number of people you see every day shrinks, the length of time that you see them expands, and so the total dating hours in a day, um, in theory, remains constant, but in practice, it actually expands slowly um, until the very end, and then it shrinks back down. But anyway, okay, so that's over explaining. So then ranking works like this. So you meet all 15 women for 10 minutes. I like Jessica, I like Taylor, I like Yada. Um, there wasn't a Jessica on our side. I just picked the random name I had, and you rank 1 through 15,
Uh-huh.
and it's really hard. It's really hard to do. You've got your, I for sure want to see her, and I don't know that I want to, and I definitely don't want to see her, but everyone in between is really hard. But the trick here is, and how the algorithm works, and I can point you to the algorithm because people are like, well, this is where the manipulation comes in. It's like, no, it's a real algorithm. We can look it up. But if how it works essentially is if I ranked someone, so you're seeing 8 women the next day, right? So
Mhm.
you're like, okay, so you kind of want to get your top 8 is ideal, but that's not going to happen because someone in your top 8 didn't rank you in their top 8, and so if I rank someone 8th, for example, if they rank me ninth, probably not going to see them. Or if they rank me even lower, definitely not going to see them. But if I rank someone first and they rank me 15th, third or last, I may still see them, right? And if I rank them first, if I rank them, you're almost guaranteed to see the person you rank first. So if I rank them first, no matter where they rank me, I'm going to see them. But then again, if you rank someone um, uh, ninth and they rank you ninth, you're definitely not going to see them. It's that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but you have to have it has to line up enough. Like you can imagine all the different possible scenarios here. And some people didn't end up with 8 dates next time. If somebody got ranked, down in the low 10 to 15 across the board, they're not going to see a whole lot of people except for their like top, 4, 5, 6. Um, so it's risky, and that happened to quite a few people, girls and guys.
Mm.
So
Okay. So like when you're sitting there in between, so you go see, talk to whoever, and now you're coming back, like what's going through your head, especially like how, well, I guess I'll twofold this question. Firstly, how early in your head did you change from my person is not on reality TV, I'm here to for the experience to like, okay, this could be real. And when that started to flip, like I can imagine the first couple days that you're in there or whatever before it flipped, that you're like, okay, let me just eat some good food and hang out with some cool people and I get to like lift some weights and I don't have to do
yeah, it's
work
a good
and like
time.
whatever. And
You're
it's a good
there. You're
time,
like,
right?
this
You're
is
just
fun.
chilling, right?
Yeah.
You're chilling. But then does it like become more stressful when you make that just, like switch in your head, or
Yeah.
less by the same token? Like how did yeah.
It was chilling, stressed, chilling, but it took a while to get back to chilling. So like the first couple days, it's just fun. And you're just, this is fun. And you barely, you're not developing anything super serious because it's, you're just getting
No,
to know
you're
everybody on a
you're
surface
10
level.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But then once you get down to like 4 people, probably like 5 people or so, I'd say like, it's like, I really like this girl, and I remember the moment with Taylor too. Um, I was just blown away by the date and the connection. And I sat there in the pod for like, I don't know, the time the buzzer goes off and they just like cut the mics and you can't hear each other. But you have time. There's a break between all the dates. So you don't need to rush out of there for like another 30 minutes or whatever. And so I just kind of sat there, and some people do if they get broken up with, or they have a really bad date, or they'll just sit there and digest. You don't want to go back into the mixing room where eventually people, it's interaction and sharing
Yeah.
information and talking. So you just kind of sit there before you go back to the mixing room. And I remember I was just like, holy shit, like something's happening here. And I remember like just being just shook. It was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like this is crazy. This is scary. And you know, you feel vulnerable and you feel like this thing that I was laughing at a couple months ago and thought was really ridiculous is now a real life feeling that's happening to me. And so you're wrestling with that. Like, is this fake? Is this manufactured? Uh, who is this person? Are they real? Is this a joke? You know, are they putting on airs? You know, so all the weird thoughts of skepticism and like cynicism and all those things come in because you're protecting yourself and you don't know what's going on. And you're feeling feelings I hadn't felt in a very long time. And yeah, it's a really wild roller coaster. And so then you become stressed, and then you stop sleeping and stop eating. And you know, it's more important than ever to like continue to work out and try to go to sleep and do the not drink. And yeah, until Taylor and I were from that moment on until Taylor and I were exclusive with one another, it was very stressful. And then once we became exclusive, there was like no doubt that we were going to get engaged. Neither one of us had any concern
Hmm.
about getting engaged, at least, right? You're still, you know, you're like, okay, I like this person enough that I'm willing to get engaged and see where this goes because that's your decision there. Um, and uh, it was very stressful up to that point. But once, yes, we both broke it off with our number twos. We're locked in. Like that was the happiest. You know, you walk in and you're like just chilling. You know, all right, cool. That's out the way. We're locked in. Let's get down to brass tacks here and start to like talk a little bit more seriously about um the future and defining that because that's the other thing too is it really is weird and hard to talk about certain things and like when you're going to the next room and you're doing the same thing with someone else. I couldn't do it anymore. I had to stop. And I talked to Taylor about that, and we both agreed. And so we locked in, and it was really easy and natural from there. And I was sleeping again. I was chilling, yeah, until the reveal. You know, I mean, it was all good through even through the um, engagements,
Hmm.
easy, super easy.
Yeah.
But the reveal was painful. I was like,
So let me backtrack, but right before the reveal, or I guess as you're going into the dates, or as you're going into the show even, do you have in your head already of like, I'm looking for in my life partner this, and this? Because I can imagine it would be easy to get swept up in like I'm supposed to find somebody and we're making a connection and all these things and like were you able to remain in like take a step back and say like okay yes this is all good like we're good. Obviously the connection that you build is real. And then by the same token, were you super aware of the cameras in the beginning? Like as you're going into some like very vulnerable states in the pods, are you like there's a camera right over there and like that's weird or like did they hide them or did they do a good job or did
uh,
you just have to get used to it?
yeah, they do a good job of like not when you're in the pods, you're in the dates. They try really intentionally to like make it intimate, and you can't really tell. You can tell sometimes it's really quiet in there too. It's all
Hmm.
soundproof. You know, you're not supposed to be able to hear even. I shouldn't be able to yell, um, and them hear me across the wall. Like it's all very soundproof, and so you can hear the cameras like um moving and like even tuning. Like you hear, beep, like you hear them zooming in. Like so when it's really quiet. But other than that, it's very intimate. And now, once you get into a date, you're pretty, your brain gets into it. It's this very like, I don't know, engulfing and enthralling feeling of like these dates behind these walls. But you set the ground rules ahead of time. Like, and certain things will trigger you. Like, I didn't want to talk about my family's trauma. I didn't want to talk about any issues with my family and like, you know, on television, like putting their stuff on. Like, I just didn't want to do that.
No, of course
Taylor
not.
didn't
Yeah.
Taylor didn't either. Like nothing personal, you know, certain really personal things. Like we'll save all that for later. I don't need that to know if I'm gonna get engaged to you or not.
Hmm.
Um, and so we agreed not to do that. And so you're aware of it in that sense. And like I know that I'm on a TV show that anything could get blasted right now. But you get so caught up, like you do forget, like your mannerisms and how you react to things, like are on full display, and certain things you do, and people were getting me for curling my toes and these other stupid things I did, and like a reaction to Taylor in one conversation, and it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I guess this could be taken out of but I don't think about it. You
Well,
don't think about it
we
in the moment.
we
You're just
text
like your
we
brain's
texted
just
about that, and I was like, "Why am
yeah.
I on Reddit trying to defend Garrett without a Reddit account for like?" It was like I was like, "I need to stop." It was like I was
It's
getting mad
crazy,
about it.
man.
My wife was like, "Eric, stop it. He's fine." I was like, "Yes."
It is
Yeah,
frustrating though, it's like, well, I I understand, but I don't, and it's like, whatever. You're not going to convince everybody. But I've seen enough things now to this point that, like, I mean, it's sports. So I think the best analogy someone gave to me one time was like, it's like sports for women because the majority of the people watch the show are women, and then just the fanaticism about it. It harkens back to, like, I'm an Arsenal fan. Kai Havertz had a really bad game the other day. People are going and attacking him and his wife and like telling him to go kill himself and things
yeah,
like
it's
this.
nonsense.
I'm like, so this is what that's like. But he doesn't deserve it. He's not, it doesn't deserve it at all. He's not a bad person, all these things, but he's still going to receive it. And you feel bad for him, but you think at that though, and you're like, you don't really think twice about it. You're like, yeah, that's the you, consequence of being a famous international football star. And I guess to some extent, to a much smaller extent, but still very similar extent, that this is the byproduct of being on these shows. Your life is exposed. Your life is the sport. The moves you make are the decisions you make, and the goals you miss are the mistakes you make. And so people are going to criticize them and tell you to kill yourself and judge you and all that. So I don't get I don't get it. I don't get why you feel the need to, like, pass judgment on someone, and especially about something that hypothetical scenarios. If Taylor had been a different race or something like that, that you're just assuming things about my character. It's really crazy to me, but I I'm not surprised, I guess. I was, but I'm not anymore.
Yeah,
It makes sense.
we're like, stop reading the comments.
Yeah, it's
I
all
want I
good.
want to go back to the one. So did going in, did you have like obviously we talked about the probability. You're like, this person's not going to be on the show for
Yeah.
sure. But as you go in, did you have kind of a way to say like, I'm looking for these specific things, and it's like in order to not get swept up, like on the off chance you're like, okay, I really connect with this person, but like, on TV shows they're like, this is the fun relationship, not the marriage one, or like things like that where it's like maybe you're supposed to meet that person, but they're not the one, etc. Did you have like a way to get in your own head of like, I'm looking for these specific things, um,
Hmm.
as you may or may not get swept up
Yeah.
and like everyone's saying like, oh, I met my person, I met my person. You're like, shit, I
Yeah,
need to meet my
right.
person too.
I think that yeah, it's easy to get swept up in it. And I was looking for this book, and I think I have it now. I have this book that I use to take notes every day. That's not it. And I'll look again here in a second. I may have it actually in my backpack, but I don't see it right away. The answer is no. I didn't know what I was looking for when I went to the show. And people will say, this is funny because I saw these comments aimed at other cast members about, like, they shouldn't be on the show. They don't even know what they're looking for. It's like, I don't think that anybody really does when they start dating. I think that you figure it out as time goes on, and even with that person, they'll shake things in you that you thought you wanted this, and now you're like, well, maybe not, or there's something that they have that you didn't think you wanted that you realize that you do want, and I think it's all a learning experience. And to pretend as if anybody that goes on these shows has the requirement to work out their entire life interests and relationship interest ahead of time is a fallacy. And I certainly didn't. I am very lucky to have gone on the show to get the opportunity to learn what I was looking for and to really root that out and think about that. And I'm grateful for the show for that opportunity because, yeah, I spent many hours from the moment I said yes to the moment I went on the show and while I was there every day thinking about what do I really want? What am I looking for? What are my top things? and authenticity, kindness, intellectual curiosity, like passion, motivation, grit. These kinds of things matter to me a lot. And then that's just personal. Now on a relationship level, like what am I looking for interchangeably, like or from an exchanges point of view, and I want someone that's going to be a partner, someone that feels equally about responsibility for these things as I do, and working around the house and helping out and things like that. So, yeah, really thinking about those things and what are my non-negotiables. And I don't think that everyone walks around asking themselves that question every day. And they also change over time, so you need to re-audit your answers to that. So, yeah, I got it figured out now. So I feel like I've got a good picture. Obviously, it's Taylor and I are doing great, and we're very happy and lucky to have one another. And so, we talk about this still. Like, what I would like out of this relationship is this and this, and it's like stuff that you think about over. Something happens, and we. I, I wouldn't be like to Taylor. Let's say something happens, and I'm like, what I really like is a partner that does X. It wouldn't feel good. So, what I say is like, I'm thinking about this and like, I want us to do more of this, or I want to see this happen more. Like, I'd love for this to be a part of our relationship. And then we communicate about it and we talk about it and like, how can we make that happen or not happen or why do I feel that way? So that's, it still evolves over time. Like, you still don't have all this stuff set in stone. So yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
a
It's like I'm not
long-winded answer. Sorry.
I'm no, it's a good answer. It's like I'm not the same person I was when we first started dating, or even probably when we got married, which is a couple of years ago now. It's like, and it all changes, like you said. But the point of what you did answer, like you like somebody who's passionate, who likes learning, has grit, all that stuff is like that's the piece as well. Like when you go in, you're like, okay, these are I need somebody with these things because like I can't or I can't like deal with anybody who doesn't have those things, generally speaking, like not
Yeah.
even for a romantic relationship. So that's interesting as well. Okay, so I wanna fast forward slightly because a lot of the stuff then after that is on the show. Like
Yeah.
you had the engagement, the reveal. You mentioned that you couldn't sleep the night before. Did you talk about that on other shows, or you want to go into kind of like how you were
Yeah, we've
feeling
talked
the
about the
day
reveal a
before?
lot. The reveal is just like dude, like I would never, ever, 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 ever do that again. And it's just such a stressful thing. It was so like I hated every second leading up to it. The reveal itself was, I couldn't, it's indescribable. It's this very, like my brain isn't my brain anymore. It's just trying to get through 20 minutes of tense anxiety and stress and pressure. And trying to do it in a way that like you know you're very excited to see your partner, um, but I think that there's naturally like a lot of besides all this other stress and stuff that's going on. When you if you were to go on a date with someone, you go out to dinner, you go on a coffee date or whatever, you have so much time to like analyze, process, think through, feel, and uh, and you don't have that in these 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes of just all right, get together, kiss, propose, try to connect, But what what are we talking about? Like, so, how's the weather? It's just you what's going on here? And you're melting, and there's 100 people up against the wall, cameras and bright lights and everything just watching you. And it was incredibly stressful. And I I guess it's great for television. I'm sure it is. I don't know that I have an alternative I'd propose, but I would never want to go through that again.
All right, fair enough. We'll move on. Okay, so you guys get to Mexico at this point. Um,
I forgot my socks. That was the one thing I was feel bad. Dude,
wait, you forgot them?
I didn't pack any dress socks,
Uh,
and not only
hold
did I
on,
not pack,
before you go. Almost the first like four reveals, nobody has socks or something. I remember
dude,
making
I
that
didn't do
comment.
it intentionally. Yeah, I did it.
Don't
Not
tell
my
people
fault.
that. No, you're a fashion person. You did it on purpose.
No,
Um,
no, it looks terrible. I don't know why. The no socks would dress with a suit. It's not my thing.
Yeah, I feel that.
not
Okay.
intentionally.
So you guys get to Mexico and you meet everybody else, and we don't
Yeah.
like need to get into the rest of that, but for you guys, how then are you trying to allocate time to yourselves with like the cameras are everywhere and stuff, but you're also like at this resort, there's other people.
Yeah.
Obviously the duck scene is the famous or like the most notable probably with
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
else in it or whatever. We don't need to go into any of that, but like are you guys, so you mentioned before you're like, okay, we need sleep, so we're gonna make that a priority, and you guys are already on the same page about things. What's the kind of allocation of time? Because now it's like you can actually, not actually, but you can get to know each other a little bit more with the face to face, and it's different than just talking to some. It's like you're not talking on the phone, air quotes, or in the pods, whatever. Like, what's that like? The adjustment to now, it's like now there's things like does she like to hold hands or does she like to do this and the physical part like was that a tough adjustment or not or like did you guys talk through that or how did that kind of settle in?
Luckily, for it settled in pretty naturally. I felt that's what I was really bonded to is the fact of how natural our physical in-person chemistry was. But there's definitely what was nice about Cabo is you have you finally have time off camera to connect, which is not something you have in the pods. Obviously, every interaction is on camera. And so off camera, if I were giving advice to someone going through the show, it's like, which the producers would hate, is lean into your off camera time with your partner because you don't have you don't have you don't you only have so much time to get to know this person and to connect with them. And if you're only doing that on camera, you're wasting your time, first of all. Second of all, you get a slightly different, like I think, context if you're having conversations off camera where you can be more understanding. Your reaction isn't being judged. So by millions of people, it's just it creates a better environment to get to know one another and to have harder conversations. The viewers hate that. I'm sorry, but my job isn't to entertain you. It just I never felt that way. I'm sorry, but my job was to decide if I was going to marry this person and spend the rest of my life with them. And so I took full advantage that we both did. We both agreed to like never um, blindside one another on camera, and yeah, we felt we succeeded that for the most part. And I think it really helped us out. I think it's really the reason why we succeeded.
No, I think yeah, I mean I think you did. I'm just pulling up your text about the things that you want to talk about because I know we've been going on this sort of stuff for a
Yeah,
while.
it's cool too. It's good.
Is there anything else of note from Cabo? Like at that point, because then they kind of go into it's like okay, you're in Cabo, and then you go they show your like little dates in DC or whatever, and you guys got the party and what and these things, and not necessarily like the stuff on camera is like yeah, it went on camera and that's fine, but
Hmm.
as you guys are now moving back into real life, is it difficult to because you're not allowed to tell people what happened? So like
Yeah, yeah,
there was somebody, I won't say who was like, "Oh, she's not following him on Instagram, therefore they're not together." And I was like, that like doesn't mean anything. It's part of like they could be. It
yeah.
doesn't matter. So, and then, well, anyways, point being is like you've gotta some people have to know, of course, because you go home and it's just like you like they're like, "Oh, you're still texting whoever," like they see you on the phone with that person. Like
Yeah.
how does that all work when you go home because you want to see that person and you're not a public figure yet because the show hasn't aired, but at the same time you can't be like traipsing around in public all the time either, I would imagine. So like how does that all work?
Well, we did, and we did. So we were pretty careful. We didn't live in DC, so yeah, there wasn't. We weren't regular. We didn't go out all the time. We're like, I sit here and I work most of the time.
Oh, so
You
so that so
know?
that didn't change.
Like, yeah, I just I sit at a desk in front of a computer for the vast majority of the day. Otherwise, I go to the gym. Okay. We don't go to the gym together. Sometimes we did, sometimes we do. But for the most part, we don't. And we don't really go out to eat that often. We'll do some dates. But so we're not like regulars in the public eye and any sort of like, if you were regular, we always went to the same coffee shop. We worked together in the same office. We go out to dinner all the time at this one place. We go to these events together all the time. We take pictures. Like that's a problem. But we weren't that kind of couple before, and to some extent still aren't. Um, and so we were really at risk. But other than that, yeah, we everybody that knew that we wanted to know about a relationship like knew, and so it didn't really matter too much to us. And we were going and doing the things we wanted to do. We walked around in public and we saw our families and we went to San Diego and all was good. So we didn't really there was no secret or need to be secret or anything like that. All was good. It was fine. I wanted to we want to post trips. That was kind of the hard thing. It's like we'd go, we went and spent a bunch of time in Europe and like we'd have to post separately. That we were near, not that it really matters. The social media gives a shit, but
Yeah.
same time, like yeah, your pictures are with your person and you want to, you're with them and you're like, I want to post that I'm at some place in Europe. All right, so I take out my phone, and I'm with Taylor, and we're here at this thing, and you do like a pano or something, and then like Taylor's over here, and like, all right, baby duck, you gotta, or you gotta cut the video short or whatever, and you're posting
Yeah.
selfies, but you're with your partner, and you're posting selfies by yourself though, like, hang on, baby, I just gotta do stuff. It's just a weird thing. Social media like that is strange, but like he's just traveling around all by himself. Yeah.
Yeah. But
It,
that
so
so but
it's
like
weird, but who
you didn't
cares?
really have anything to get used to then in terms of like you weren't necessarily worried about and you didn't have to change much about what you were doing. Okay, so then so you're married at that point, right before the show is aired. So married life was one of the things that you wanted to that you mentioned to me. Like, so okay, the adjustment into that, right? You're married, and
Yeah.
now like you're living together. The show's done, hasn't aired yet, but like adjustments for you, thinking for you. How is this all working out in, or like, is there anything specific within that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, I mean, it's we we went through like our first year of marriage, went through like another crash course in marriage, it felt like. I mean, we were two people that our families are across the coast. She was living in DC for 5 years, a big city. I was living in Fredericksburg for my entire life, very small city. And she moved to Fredericksburg and she was like, I don't really like it here. Like, I understand. I love it here. My family's here, but that's the only reason. I didn't like Fredericksburg um, objectively. I liked it because my family and friends were there. I do like Fredericksburg, to be fair, but like I know it's not a better city with more exciting things to do and all this in DC. So I understood. Um, and so our timeline initially for like moving out of Fredericksburg and moving to San Diego was like 5 years or whatever. We never really talked about it, but it was definitely a lot longer than like a year. And so the timeline was speeding up very quickly. And I was like, crap, like this is I don't know I'm ready to leave Fredericksburg this right now. And we spent a lot of time in San Diego. We spent a lot of time abroad, and I brought that to her. I was like, I don't know that I'm ready to leave Fredericksburg. Like, this is hard. This is gonna be tough. Like I miss my family. I currently like I felt very depressed over the summer. Like I just missed my family, and I never spent that much time away from them. And like I love you, I love this marriage, but like I miss my family. So it feels like an incompatibility. Like I'm depressed that I'm not in Fredericksburg. She's upset, or I would use the word for her, but perhaps depressed that she's not in a bigger city or with her family. And 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 we're in a first year of marriage, which already has other issues, communication and otherwise, compatibility stuff, and that we're still trying to get used to. And it was really, really, really hard, really hard. And we luckily came through it and fought through it and communicated through it. And we're on the other side of it now. We feel great, but not every moment of the year was easy. There were really tough times, and yeah, I'm very happy that we fought through it and pushed through it because I kept like asking myself like, is there a brighter side to this? Like, am I gonna feel better? Like, is this gonna get better? Are we gonna figure this out? And what ultimately like broke the damn wall for us was in a positive way was kind of paradigm shift of how I think about the world where I'm headed. And we don't know where we're going to end up in 10 years. I don't know I don't know if I'm going to end up in San Diego, DC, Fredericksburg, whatever, but that's okay. You don't have to know. You don't have to know. All we need to do is figure out where we want to end up for the next year or two, couple of years, and go from there. And she proposed DC, and as a compromise, because she has family there, she's lived there for 5 years, and I can still drive to Fredericksburg if I'm feeling homesick or lonely or whatever. And and it's only the next couple of years. Also, a good time to live in DC. We now have more friends there. We have opportunities there. My work is still there. One of my businesses is there. So yeah, we're like, let's go do DC and for the next couple of years and find a place and go from there. And it's not Fredericksburg. It's a bigger city that Taylor's very familiar with. She's always liked DC. She liked this particular area we want to move into, and we get to build our own. We get like set up our not build, but build our own lives for ourselves and pick a place that we both like and agree on and can furnish it the way we like it, and rather than just her moving into my space or me moving into her space. This is a joint space. And yeah, we really like the idea. We're extremely excited about it. And so now, am I going to be there forever? No idea. No idea. And I had to become okay with that. And I am. Like, I, I can't believe it, but I don't care and know what's going to happen in 2 years. I have no idea. No idea.
Well, ugh,
We're buying a
it's a
house
lot.
anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, that's good for sure. Buying, yeah. And then, so how have things changed for you? So people who have been following you on social or whatever
Yeah.
will have seen some of the stuff that you're posting. You did a commercial
Yeah.
for
I don't post
something, or you're
pictures
doing,
anymore.
yeah, you don't post pictures. There's stories about promos or whatever and things of that nature. And like you said, and like we've talked about prior, it's like, yeah, you're on socials, but it's not your cup of tea, for instance. Like you post your gym
Yeah.
workouts and things like that. But now, like, how has life changed for you from the perspective of like you got a sauna in your garage, but not only, but like maybe you would have posted that before, but now you're like
Yeah.
tagging the people and you're doing
Yeah. Yeah.
things and you've got your promo
Yeah.
codes and all the rest of the stuff. Like, so how's things changed for you out like from marketing perspective, I guess, but just like your businesses being in the social kind of say public eye loosely. It's not like you're messy running around. You can't walk down the street, but like to some extent, your life has changed. Like how have things changed for you, um, in that way, from those perspectives?
Yeah. I mean, there's more pressure to keep up with social media because there are opportunities that come through, and so and it pays really well, But I mean, honestly, I'm like it's stuck in the middle of like this tranche of like, which direction do I go with all this? Because I don't need that money. I'm fine. Uh, but it's good money at the same time. So it's like, you're kind of tempted by it, but I'm going to turn down like a $20,000 deal the other day because I don't have the time for it. I don't have the time for it. Um, but it's really easy, you're making a reel, but it's like, I don't have the time to make that reel, I'm good. And so,
Yeah.
uh, it's kind of a weird space I'm in because you're looking at it too, and you're like, man, like I could just do this full time. Like that's how well paying it is. Like if you really like locked in, and also like trimmed the fat on your expenses, you could definitely make this work. I think risk wise, like I'd be okay with it. But the thing is, your life totally changes at that point. And I get to put, I would, and I've, I've thought about, I've considered it. I'm definitely like, you got to ask yourself the question. But I like I do at INQ too much. Um, they pay too well. I believe in it too much. Um, and I'm not ready to give up science, but there may come a day, and at that point, what I would do is really focus on fitness influencing and my growth and just documenting my life. I think documenting my marriage, our transition to DC. Like I plan on do that anyways. I would really like to start a YouTube channel this year. And in fact, it's one of my 2025 goals to start a YouTube channel. And um, a couple of my first videos will be like, who am I? How did I end up on Love is Blind? Uh, my marriage and the transition to DC. I think this would be a very interesting thing. Moving to DC is something people be interested in seeing, and just building the life there with Taylor and the things that we have going on. But we want to start some social type events, like recurring social events, and documenting that and what that all looks like. And yeah, I think there's a lot there to document. And I really enjoy. I watch YouTube videos all the time. So I watch people's their stories and what they're doing, and when people can document things, their life in a very interesting way, or like a cinematically like a pleasing way. I really enjoy it, and so I'd like to do it, and so I'm going to try. It's going to be a time commitment, but it's worth it to me. And yes, I will trade making a YouTube video for free over $20,000 to do a brand deal for something I don't really believe in. And that's a commitment I'm making to myself this year. And I will take some brand deals that I think I align with, but for the most part, like, I've been offered quite a few things that they're not bad but they're not what I believe in and not part of my ethos. So I don't, not that excited about it, and I don't need the money, so I don't care. But I will do brand deals I think align with my ethos and my message because I want to build a brand around like uh, fitness, wellness, and just like betterment. Like I'm really big into like self improvement and just living a better life and more focused life and intentional life. And I believe in that. I think that a lot of people can benefit from that, and I would like to inspire people to align with that as well. So that's my hope, my goal there.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I love hearing you say that you've not gone with stuff that you don't believe in. I think, like, at least from me to you as somebody, well, the authenticity will remain if you continue to make decisions like that. And then of course the self-improvement, the health and wellness thing I think is huge. There was kind of maybe 5 years ago there was not saturation or whatever, but there was like a weird kind of niche of like fitness influencer people. But I think now we've seen things with um did Red Dye I think got banned recently. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know. Some
yeah.
yeah,
It
so
did.
like
Yeah,
I think
FDA
we're
banned
st yeah, I think we're
resigning
seeing a
McGregor's.
big kind of health up awareness uptick. I think enough people have kind of realized like, hey, maybe just this pill is not going to solve all my problems and I should eat better and go on walks and work out and
Yeah, there's
stuff.
a lot more benefits to
Yeah,
working out than just losing weight and looking
yeah,
better
a hundred
that
percent.
people still
And
struggle with. But yeah,
if you are able to influence that in an authentic way, I think that's huge. That's what I try to do with the soccer channel. I harp on
yeah,
that on this show all the time. It's like, hey, if you're not feeling great, like try this, and this. And it's like I'm not a doctor and I'm not a nutritionist or whatever, but like I know that if you do work out, you eat healthy, like the kind of the mental fog will clear up eventually. And it's not like you do it one time and all of a sudden like your life is better. It's like it takes time and discipline, but like that's why the first part is the hard part. And then once you get into the routine, as you know, then it becomes easier. It's like just part of who you are and what you do. And it's easier to maintain that level of consistency. So I think that's super cool that you want to do that. Um, what's the other things you said? 2025 health and fitness goals. Kind of
yeah. I
touched
mean,
on that. Yeah.
but see, this is the thing I also like to document because I'm like, you mentioned the other day, like back to the good old days playing soccer on Sundays, and I don't have that option anymore because of my hips and knees. Like in 4 years ago, well now coming up on five. But I think 4 years ago was my last game of soccer I ever played. I haven't played since.
Hmm.
I played a little bit of basketball since, but not a full-on game. And when I do, I'm I'm crushed for like weeks. And I had like I always thought, okay, cool. So I had my hips looked at and everything. I like to the point where I play a game of soccer and I can't sleep for like some weeks or months afterwards until like finally it all goes away. And I thought maybe I have really bad arthritis and like I have very little cartilage in my hip and knee joints. And that's what I always thought was true. Back when I played football in college, like that was the story. Like I had arthritic knees. And so I got scans and they confirmed that you have arthritic knees and hips. And your left hip in particular is really bad. And to the point where like I'm like limited on movement. I'm pain all the time. I barely slept last night because I was in pain so much. And so now not only can I just play sports, but like I can't function throughout the day. And so
Hmm.
but I've been stretching nonstop. I've been stretching for about 25 to 30 minutes every day for the past 2 years. And I thought that would help. It's not gotten better. Maybe it's helped in other ways or slowed it down or whatever, but it's not improved. And so I made a commitment this year to try to figure out how to improve. And I met with a physical therapist the beginning of January, the end of December. And he believes that I'm putting my faith in him that I can get back to playing soccer and basketball and running again. Um, and he believes he can do this through physical therapy using Graston technique and other instrument assisted soft tissue um, uh, uh, therapy or whatever it's called. I forget what the physical the medical name for it is, but basically like rolling and using these metal things in grass. And it's like the muscles. His idea is the muscles are too tight. So what happened to him? His whole story is he was a big pro bodybuilder, and he tore his pec. He's got a big
Hmm.
scar here. He's tore his pec, and the reason was because his pecs are so tight and knotted up, and so it's like the rubber band analogy. Like your muscles are supposed to be elastic and smooth, but when they're not well maintained, they get all these knots in them, and so they get so tight that they'll tear, they'll break,
Yeah.
and that's what happened. It's like it's too tight, but if you work all that out, then it becomes smooth again and loose, and you can everything's good. And so what's happening with my legs is everything's so tight, and which you can see, it's very obvious that that's true. You know, you just run your hand down, you can feel the bumps. But anyways, it's so my legs are so knotted up that my legs are like the joints are being pushed in. So like my 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 thigh and my hip, like it's being forced in. So everything's so tight that it's grinding in
Have we
my
talked about
joints.
this before?
No, no.
Let's talk afterwards. Yeah, we'll talk
You're
afterwards.
inside. So the idea here, okay, so you know a bit about this, I don't need to explain anymore. The idea is if I can work all of that out by rolling every day, which I do. So
Uh-huh.
now I spend an hour every single day stretching and rolling and doing physical therapy. And I'm committed to this. And if I get through this and I'm able to run without all of my hip and knee pain goes away without sports, mind you, in the next couple of months. And then towards the end of the year, I've set a goal on being able to run without pain, play a game of soccer without pain, play a game of basketball without pain. If I can do all this by the end of the year, holy shit, my life will change. I mean, I when he told me that that was possible, first time he told me I didn't believe him, and I didn't see him again for 3 years, and so now I saw him again, and he's telling me this is what he believes, and he's seen this before. He's seen people way worse condition than me, and yada yada yada. I started crying when he told me that he thought that I could get back to running and playing soccer again because I thought that part of me is gone, you know, and I feel emotional now talking about it. I'm gonna do my best not to get emotional, but it's like this is something that you know you play a lot of sports, so you understand. Someone came into your life and with a magic wand ripped soccer away from you. How would you feel?
Oh,
You know,
dude, I would just jump off a bridge, honestly.
yeah,
Not
and
actually for the
that's
algorithm,
yeah
not
yeah yeah
actually.
yeah, and that's what happened to me. And I've been I struggled with it for a long time. I've gotten over it. I've resigned. Like I'm good. I don't need to play sports again. It's fine. I lift weights. I can still spearfish. I'm active. I'm fine. But when someone comes in and they're like, "You can play sports again," I'm very skeptical. I'm very cautious about getting too excited. But I'm going to do the work and see what happens, and I'm going to document it. And if I had known about this 4 years ago, I'd be in a different place, right? So I want to get this message out if it's true and show people, or if it's not true, show people what not to do. So we'll see. I'm excited. I'm very nervous, and I'm eager to make it. I'm committed. I mean, I do it every day. So, but
Dude,
people are like, why
yeah.
are you stretching for an hour every day? I'm like,
No, 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 no. Let's
I will
let's
tell
talk.
my story
Let's
eventually.
talk. Let's talk after. I had so just for you, and then we can get into the like
Yeah,
specifics offline or whatever. I've got a kid that I train with Osgood Schlatter's, so his knees, and he couldn't bend his knees or like walk downstairs.
yeah,
5 sessions later, he's running. So like I'm not even like I can. Yeah, I think you could do it.
yeah.
I think you can do it for sure. So
I'm trying.
yeah, man, for sure. Okay, what was the travel plans? What you got for
Yeah, we're
travel?
gonna. So yeah, we're trying to move to DC. This is
Uh-huh.
already a big thing, but we also would like to travel. So we're gonna torture ourselves in trying to travel in the middle of all that. We're gonna go to Costa Rica for like 2 weeks in February, so in a month. And I got a spearfishing trip in the middle of all that. And then when we come back, finally when we come back. in March, beginning of March, we will buckle down and find this place in DC. And then after that, we'd like to go to Portugal, do some coast trips at the east and west coast, and just travel around America a little bit. We're talking to electric vehicle companies that want to work with us and maybe leverage that. So yeah, we got some fun stuff. DC's the big thing right now, so we're getting too carried away with ourselves. But we got to still do some. I got to get some spearfishing in somehow.
Yeah, of course. Without that, what
Yeah.
would you? Without that, who would you be? No, I'm missing. Um, well, I know your time is somewhat limited from our conversation previously, but do you got any kind of last nickels before we get you out of here?
No, 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 that's it. I'm excited. I appreciate you having me on here and giving me a chance to talk about it because a lot of these interviews are very short and quick, and I can be a bit long-winded, so I don't have quite the opportunity to explain what's going on. And I like sharing our story, and I think it's very interesting. So I would have appreciated this perspective before I went on. So I'm glad I got to share some of it.
Yeah, man. Dude, love talking to you as always. Obviously we've both been kind of you've been busy in a different type of way, but these are kind of the relationships that I really enjoy where like we don't have to talk that much and it's still good. We hop back in and it's
Yeah, it
like,
feels good.
yeah, 100%. So, if you're listening to this, you probably already know where Garrett's socials are, but I'll put the links to those in the descriptions for as I do all the time. And thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks
Peace.
for listening, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you want to watch another episode like this one, click there. If you want to subscribe, click there.